Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to present the follow-on to last week's presentation. And this topic here is an extension of that, meeting the needs of the modern PMO with the Power Platform and OnePlan. And to get started with this, let's do a little bit of a recap of last week's webinar, just at a high level. Now, we talked about some of the business reasons for why we're presenting what we're presenting here today with the technology and the solutions. And from a Microsoft perspective, it's all about bridging the work management gap. We talked about that not all project managers in the modern era are classically trained project managers. Some are dubbed project managers for a specific initiative, and their role may be something completely different in engineering or whatever it might be. And distributed work is everywhere, meaning with remote workforce, distributed global companies, and multi-cross-functional projects, work is happening everywhere. And sometimes it gets a bit chaotic. And the legacy tools that we have given to us by organizations don't always provide the modern capabilities that we're looking for in accommodating well new methodologies like more agile approaches or some hybrids of those things. And because we have distributed data in different tool sets, there's a lot of pockets and silos of information, meaning the mashup of that data and the reporting on that is highly manual. Ultimately, it's hard for anybody to have the big picture, and sometimes by the time it's all mashed up and sorted and formatted, the big picture that people do get may already be outdated by the time they get it. So the big pain here is really about disconnected tools and processes, and that Microsoft really, with its cloud offerings, is uniquely positioned to bring this all together with a variety of options and tools for project and work management across all of its cloud offerings. So Microsoft's work management vision, which we're supporting and help extend today, is that teams work the way they want, but enterprises still get the results that they need. That's Microsoft's work management vision for where it's heading with project and portfolio management. So back in Ignite 2020, Microsoft announced a Power Apps Accelerator for Project for the Web to bring PPM capabilities to this new technology. It has since and just recently been renamed the Project Power App. So if you've heard the term before in our prior webinars or today, what was called the Project Accelerator is now branded or named as the Project Power App, and we'll be using that throughout this presentation. The idea here is to really give people a good solid jumping off point for taking what's available with the new Project for the Web and giving portfolio management capabilities to that solution. So the new Microsoft PPM is built on the Power Platform, and some of us are familiar with a lot of components of this already. Many organizations are already using Power BI for a number of different things already. Some are using Power Automate to do workflows and process automation. Power Apps for the low-code, no-code platform to build apps that are available. And by the way, the Project Power App is actually built in Power Apps. The strength of this is a common data repository called Dataverse that allows us to have all of our information in one place and not distributed in silos of information so that we can use it for visibility, reporting, and other access purposes that we might want. The strength here is this new Project for the Web. Not only is it a more modern project management tool, but it is built on this Power Platform and using Dataverse as its data repository. Now, for those of you that are wondering, should I be making this move to the Power Platform? Be assured that this is a strategic direction of Microsoft. Satya Nadella stated that the Power Platform is one of the core things that Microsoft is doing as a company and where the future is. So whenever you're ready to make this move, be rest assured that you're going to be on the path and the train that Microsoft is following, moving towards the future. So if we introduce the new Microsoft Project Power App, it's taking that web-based scheduling tool, Project for the Web, and really extending it to provide more project and portfolio management requirements that organizations need. Doing things like capturing project requests, being able to aggregate projects into programs, being able to have a registry of all your projects, being able to manage resources across all those projects, and provide reporting seamlessly out of that to have it be a natural output of that process. So these are the basic things provided in the base Power App for project that Microsoft is providing. So how does this work? Well, think about people using the new modern project for the web, and there's an illustration here on the left of a number of different project plans that have been created. Instead of them being stored on a desktop or in different repositories, all of these natively get stored in that Dataverse repository that we talked about on the back end of the Power Platform. It then allows us to have solutions in Power Apps that allow us to have a registry of all our projects, be able to capture a central place for all project requests, and a variety of other information, which we'll be talking about in more detail today. So it really extends the capabilities of not just an individual project plan, but to look at these things collectively and work with that data as we need to within an organization. So let's look at the Project Power App components. At the core, you have Project for the Web that allows you to start projects and build tasks and schedules around those projects. Now, with the Power App, the Project Power App, Power Apps allows us to add entities around those schedules for things like issues and risks and change requests, be able to have status reports, the ability to have governance process, and even KPIs to indicate whether or not we're on track or not. It also gives us the ability on the upfront part of the process to capture project requests and capture data points and business case information or whatever it might be, so that whenever you decide that this request is something that should turn into a project, it can be promoted into a project at any given point. And then the ability to provide an aggregate or collections of projects at a program level, whether those programs might be for a product line or for a value stream in a more agile sense. The idea is that this provides you the ability to have a full portfolio solution that allows you to deal with the data from all of your projects, regardless of where they're being created within that project for the web in modern project environment. Also, using Power BI, there is a native feed and a content and report pack that actually has portfolio level, task level, resource level information that comes out of this Project Power App and allows us to get that insights and views in a more graphical and more digestible and interpretable fashion as a natural output of the process without having to cobble that together manually. So those are some things that we find that most people want today as we talk to them in the marketplace. And even like with Microsoft Project on the desktop and Project Online, surveys found that 80% of the people only used a fraction of the capabilities that were in there. So for many of the audience there, what's provided in that base Project Power App will meet their needs. However, for extended needs, Gartner, for example, identified other areas that people may want to get into, like time reporting and timesheets, more detailed financial management, some more time-phased resource capacity planning, and even additional dimensions of project portfolio management. So for those folks that have the need for those more extended capabilities, OnePlan has extended the Project Power App into a more fully adaptive PPM solution. So if we look at this graphic here that has the components that are already identified in the core Project Power App, what we may want to do for some audiences, and this may include you, we might want to extend that program's capability collection into higher level portfolios or multiple portfolios, or even bring it up a notch, a level, to where we're tracking strategies and executing on strategies and possibly even aligning those strategies with our projects and programs. And then in the portfolio management realm, some folks want to do what-if scenarios and maybe do prioritization by a variety of different methods. Maybe more detailed financial management with the detailed cost categories and time phasing, and maybe even resource capacity planning to understand what we need generically and both from specifically named individuals across our organization. So those are capabilities that are provided here by OnePlan into the Power App. And then other things like more task management, for example, like we talked about a timesheet, the ability for people to go in and report time on all the projects that they're on, or even the tasks or work elements that they're on as a natural output, and have one place to go to do that. And then task management, if you're not doing time reporting, you still need to update the tasks and the progress on those things and completion status, and be able to give team members a place in one location to be able to log that completion status or progress and have it feed back to the project managers so that it can update their plans electronically. This is a capability that OnePlan adds to that mix today. Also, for what Gartner calls an adaptive project management capability, using the proliferation of tools and to support Microsoft's vision of work the way you want, we can bring in plans with the OnePlan extension from a variety of places. The native Power App, Project Power App, uses Project for the Web plans, but there are still users out there that are using Microsoft Project Professional or the Project Desktop tool. There's other folks that are doing Azure work, Agile work, and Azure DevOps, and other tools, for example. Now, be able to bring those into the mix and have a variety of work tools, bring those into the portfolio and have it work seamlessly as it does with any other planning tool like Project for the Web, is a power that is brought by the extension of bringing OnePlan into the mix. Also, OnePlan is built for the Microsoft Cloud. It was designed to seamlessly extend the Project Power App. So if we think of that as the core offering from Microsoft, by no means are we not using that. We are just simply extending what is there to provide additional capabilities on demand for the customers that need it. So bringing in work from a variety of different sources, and in that Microsoft graphic on the left, we see things like Project for the Web or Project Desktop. We see Planner, we see SharePoint tasks, we see Azure boards from Azure DevOps, etc. All those work sources can be actually brought into the Power App by leveraging OnePlan. It's purpose-built portfolio management capabilities to extend in the Microsoft Cloud and Azure. It is a solution. It's not a set of plugins or widgets that's needed. It's actually a solution that actually extends the Project Power App. It also provides a flexible deployment architecture for the Microsoft Cloud, so it can be accessible via Teams or Power Apps directly, or within the new Project Operations or Azure DevOps, or possibly just in an overall web experience. But the idea is not to be locked in to a huge ERP monolith or something that kind of restricts us. It gives us the flexibility to work the way we want with the tools that make the most sense for the projects that we have. And we can integrate all work that impacts business incomes, like I had mentioned, bringing in data from a variety of different planning and execution tools. So why is this important to you? Well, one is to transform into a more modern PPM platform. Project Online does a great job out there, and many people are still using that and continue to. But as Microsoft is trying to work on the next generation and bring us there, it's really transforming this into a modern solution with a modern user interface and using a platform that allows us to give us flexibility and enterprise scale. And that's what the Power Platform gives us. It also leverages the breadth of collaboration and security of the Microsoft Cloud, meaning by putting this into the Power Platform, you have the protection and the guardrails of enterprise and world-class security that's provided by the Microsoft Cloud. So it's really about the power of choice. Work the way you want, as is in the Microsoft vision. In this example here, we're looking at a Project Power App at the top of the graphic being fed by a variety of Microsoft tools, whether it be Project for the Web, the new modern project, Project Online Desktop, or what was commonly referred to as Project Professional, and the Azure boards from Azure DevOps, as people may be modeling backlogs in more agile type of projects. These can all be brought to bear within this new solution. So what does OnePlan add to the core Project Power App? And if you want to look more about the Project Power App, you can find on our website a link to last week's webinar to look at the fundamentals around that in more detail. But what can be added in more of a modeling capability and a visual capability and what if scenario is portfolio visibility across all work. We can also bring that data in from a variety of different planning tools like we had mentioned. We can do portfolio prioritization and model with calculations that are customer-based based on the way they look at the world and how they rank projects. And you might even have multiple schemes in there that you might want to look at. Portfolio Kanban boards for people that take more agile or lean portfolio management approaches. We can do program increment or what's called PI planning in here by dragging around cards on a Kanban board at the portfolio level and look at different parameters. And Paul's going to demonstrate some of that to you today. Portfolio tree hierarchies, be able to build a portfolio or analyze a portfolio based upon a hierarchical structure, possibly from strategy all the way down on through the specific work elements or features that we might be working on in a particular project. Resource capacity planning, where we want to look at maybe early on high-level capacity of what resource types we're going to need in order to see, do we have the bandwidth to actually fulfill on these projects, and then ultimately replacing those with the individuals that are going to have to work on that. Being able to flexibly plan on a time-phase basis what we've originally committed, maybe look what's being scheduled in detail, and then possibly even capturing what's in a timesheet and look at how we're actually spending those resources. Very detailed resource management capability provided by OnePlan added to the mix. Resource negotiations, be able to have automated byplay between project managers and resource managers to make sure the requests of resources are done and the resource manager has input into what resources will actually fulfill those requests. And so they can come to agreement right within the tool set on what resources are needed and who will actually perform. Resource prioritization, be able to look at what if scenarios in here and look at the portfolio that we're proposing to embark upon, and then look at down below what the resource constraints might be and see if do we even have the bandwidth, or are we overcommitting by looking at this portfolio and looking at things like, should we stagger our projects differently or should we deselect lower priority projects? Same thing with financial planning. We can actually do detailed cost category based financial planning within the tool set and then incorporate that in our constraint analysis and portfolio prioritization and selection. So we can look at a portfolio that we're looking at, approving, then seeing, does it all fit within the budget in the lower screen below, and look at different what if scenario options on what might fit and how we might be able to accomplish this. And then strategic portfolios or objectives and key results, commonly known as OKRs. Be able to structure those here so that we can actually not only execute on the objectives and the tangible key results towards those objectives, but even align the projects that we have in our portfolio with those to make sure that we're working on the right things that actually support the corporate strategies. And then insights. We actually have some AI-based analysis to improve data accuracy and call to our attention where things are missing, where things might need attention, and give us some analysis of the work for each individual resource so they can stay on top of what's expected of them and get an assist from the solution on being able to make sure that we get all the things done that are expected of us. And then we talked about the My Work, a centralized place where a resource or a team member can go to no matter what projects they're on or no matter what tool set's being used to be able to provide task updates and progress in one place. The same thing with timesheets, a centralized timesheet where people can report time against all projects and all work, and also a highly configurable timesheet so it's flexible so that you can categorize things and report time the way you want to or you need to for your organization. Now, between the Power Platform and OnePlan, there are hundreds of out-of-the-box connectors that are available to bring many tools and solutions into the mix here. So there's a lot of options here to really make this a fully adaptive solution that incorporates the tools that you want to, but bring them all in together into a singular portfolio hub. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Estabrooks, who'll give you a demonstration and show you how these things work in action.
Thanks very much, Jim. I'm going to start with a quick review of what we demoed last week, just so people could sort of, those maybe who didn't see last week, just to sort of frame it. So just quickly look at the solution that we did demo in detail last week. So I'm in the new Project Power app. You can see I've landed on the home page. I have this nice dashboard with some initial data I can look at. And I'm going to kind of click through this quickly just to frame it, and then you'll see where we take it from here as we extend it. So we have this concept. They included this idea of project requests, so we can create a form here where we can come in and capture information about a request, apply a workflow or an approval process to that using Power Automate, and drive that through to the point where it then becomes a project. So we have this nice UI here that we can extend and configure to work and capture the data that you need to capture. Likewise with programs, so this idea of programs, and here we can consolidate information from the multiple projects below. So I have my financial data, so we set a program budget and benefits, but we have actually roll-up of the data and information from the project specifically. Likewise, the program can have a status, and we actually know which projects make up that program. So that ability to create that higher order entity and describe a group of projects and organize them as a program, really helpful feature. And just a quick look at the project space. So I have my projects in here, and I'm going to click into one so you could see that. So some of that information may have come from the initial project request, other data we might be capturing, the idea of capturing and managing the process around a business case. So I want to capture information about it, the narrative, the prioritization, and so forth. I want to look at the finances of this specific project. What's its budget? Where are we right now? What are we expecting in terms of benefits? Some high-level data that a lot of clients look to capture. I'm looking at my resource list. This is pulling from Project for the Web, and that's the next tab in the tasks. So you can see here the resources that have been assigned, how much work they have, how much they have done. So some high-level summary data, and we're leveraging what's being captured elsewhere in the tool. And here's Project for the Web, embedded within this Power App solution. So I have my grid, switch the time zone here. I have my grid showing who's working on what tasks are done. I can mark a task complete, get a little chime, and see how stuff is progressing and add new tasks and so forth here. I can also look at that as part of Project for the Web in this idea of a board. I'm going to switch my board view to progress just quickly, and you can see which tasks are started, which ones are in progress, and maybe I want to make that one complete. Okay, so I have that alternate view. And then lastly, the idea of a timeline. So I'm going to come up here and look at this and scroll to tasks quickly. And now we can view that same schedule in a basic Gantt chart showing the interdependency and the interplay between tasks, which tasks are complete by being fully highlighted in the dark blue, and so forth. I can zoom in, zoom out, look at that schedule and see where we're at in terms of all of the tasks. So all of that information is Project for the Web. It's here. I could also open it in Project separately and work on it, but all that capability is embedded within the solution. And then there's these other components that Jim mentioned when he went over that the chart with the different pieces to this. It's risks, issues, changes, and status reports. Those of you who have used Project Online in the past, a lot of this data would have occurred in the SharePoint site. Now it is here as part of the overall project experience, and each one of them is its own Power App with the data being stored in the Dataverse for us to use both in this solution, in Power BI for reporting, or potentially leverage that data in another solution that you may have in another business system. So my risks, issues, change requests, and then my ability to create a status report, fill out that status report, and you can see we have a couple of past status reports to be able to go back and look at how this project has progressed over time. So just a quick view, I wanted you to see what we covered last week in a lot more detail, just to frame where we are and where we're headed with this. So there's a lot of capability here. Jim mentioned that Microsoft's research showed that this is what a lot of people want to use, but some clients need to use more. They need to be able to go further than this. So here's the extension that we've done. Now I've added and you've watched and seen my work, my timesheets, and other things have come in. So I'm going to jump to an environment here that has a lot of that same data. Project request is the same. We're using and leveraging the Microsoft Power Apps and components, so I won't go through those again. But I want to jump into projects. I'm going to grab that same project so you can see what's changed as we extend the solution. Summary data is similar, business case data is the same, but here's where our extensions start to come into play. Now we have all of our data in here, the ability to do a much richer financial analysis where that's required. So if I'm going to turn off the compare for just a second, you can see how I would fill out this budget data. I've got my different expense types, and I've captured my budget. And as I showed there, I could change my date range. I could look at this in a quarterly budget, maybe an annual budget. I can look at last year, this year. I could set a custom range, hit apply, and now look at that data in the way I need to. Or I can compare, I want to compare to forecast, which is what was there just when we came onto this screen, so that I can look at what was our original budget, what are we now forecasting as the project progresses, and highlight where we're seeing some delta or difference in the data so that we can start to manage finances at a much more granular level. So we provide this capability. I may also want to pivot this to look at it by expense type as a common thing where people have CapEx and OpEx expenses. You may have other cost categories you're trying to track, and we can look at all of that data here. Likewise, we've added some additional capabilities around resource planning. Now we can look at our resources in comparison to where they're being used in other projects. If we turn this off for a second and look at my project team, here you can see the resources that I have on the project, those marked with the little green check mark. They're active on my project, but wherever you see red, there's something there I might want to know in that there is an overage. Ehrlich is over allocated in that particular month, and I might want to, as a PM, look into that in greater detail. We also have generic resources here where we need to add them to our project. And I'm going to show you the first of two ways we might go about this. I can check on this and look at my resources and say, okay, I want to look down here. This is my overall resource pool. Find resource, I'm going to say best match. And now I could see the three options, or two options really, because the generic is there, that I have to replace the generic on this project and add them to my team. And I could simply pick one and hit replace, and they'll be added to the project, and away I go. So as a PM or an owner of this project, I could go about assigning or switching the generics to named resources by doing the analysis and the look into the resource pool as to who has availability and who's the best fit based on the role I'm trying to fill. I can also look at this, let me just turn this off for a second, and look at how I compare from what I committed to what I actually have scheduled. And the scheduled work will be coming from the work plan, which I'm going to show next, and the tooling we might be using, Project Pro or otherwise. So you can see here that we had commitments to resources, but in some cases, the schedule, either stuff's been delayed or stuff's taking too long. And so the schedule effort is now exceeding, in some cases, what was originally committed. And we're going to need to handle that and deal with that as a project manager. So I have that ability to quickly see, what did I say we were going to do? What are we actually doing? If I click on the work plan, I want to show something here. Jim mentioned this about tool of choice, and you're going to see that come to life here. Let me just switch back to the task view first, and then I'll come back to there. Is here in the task view, this is my tasks and schedules that's coming in here. And this task list could be coming from Project for the Web or Project Professional, depending on circumstance. So one project might be using Project for the Web because that makes sense for what they want to do, and someone else may need to use Project Pro because of some capabilities or whatever the reason might be. We incorporate both. So whichever tool is used here to do the schedule, we can draw that data in and view it here. You update the schedule in the tool of choice, but you can view the impact and summary and look at the schedule here. Likewise, if I jump back to the backlog, you may also be managing some tasks in a tool like Azure DevOps, which is where this data is coming from. Or maybe it's Jira in case you're using that tool. So here we can incorporate both an agile tooling exercise as well as a conventional project management tool to have an overall view and sort of that adaptive or hybrid model that we see so many of our clients trying to support. So tool of choice, it's very important. The risks, issues, changes, and status report, we're leveraging what Microsoft's providing out of the box. We haven't changed those here. That's not an extension we're doing. They can be configured. You can add more fields and so forth to them as you need to or your business requirements, but that's the power of the Power App. I wanted you to see those key extensions that we've done. Next piece I'll dive into is the analyzer. The analyzer is similar to what we had in Project Online to do portfolio optimization. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that we support that. First thing I'm looking at here is a quick list view, and I'll spend a bit of time on these different lists. You're seeing I'm organized by portfolio, and down the left I want to highlight the different tools of choice that are in play. This project is being managed in Project for the Web. Likewise, Azure DevOps, this one's in Project Pro, and on down the list. So some clients need to use multiple tools for a project or different tools depending on different circumstances. But here we're able to see them all in one central view. We're able to do our prioritization, our statusing, our business cases, regardless of the tool that we're using at the other end. So we bring that tool of choice and then allow us to use it here. We have different views in here. So maybe we want to look at these projects and see how they relate in a Gantt chart. So we can have that view. Now I'm going to show you the first of two possible methods to do prioritization. This one being the more conventional list priority type model. So I'm going to switch to my prioritization view. There it is. And you can see how each project scored itself, or was scored when it was submitted, against a set of objectives or criteria that we defined in the configuration, and that calculated a score. We have the ability here to stack rank the project. So I could say, this project isn't as important as we thought, and move it down, okay? Move another project up. Maybe something has to jump forward or jump up the list because of a change in circumstance, so we can quickly drag and drop it. Or I may want to take this to that next level, and Jim showed a screenshot of this. It's the idea that I need to look at this from a budget perspective. And I'm going to say we have a target, so I'm going to pick up my target, and you can see that in some of the months, we're over our budget. So we could start to look at, well, what if we start taking some of the projects that are the least important, some are proposed and some are active, out of our model, and you can see the numbers are starting to improve. I think if I take one more out, you'll see a marked improvement. There we go. And I could keep playing with that till I get to the kind of budget scenario that I want. I could also look at this and say, well, maybe I just want to change the timing of some of these projects. So I'm going to zoom out to years just to have a different look at this and say, yeah, we're going to do that project, but let's delay it. And you can see my budget started to improve, although this month got worse, so I'd have to do some more work. Maybe I move this project out too and see if that makes a difference. It does. And when I'm done doing that modeling, this is all about what if scenarios. I could come in here and say, save that scenario. Perhaps I want to review it with management later. I want to discuss it in a group setting. You could say, hey, we did a couple of different scenarios. Let me show them to you and decide how we want to proceed. Likewise, I could look at all of this via the same kind of view, only this time looking at it in a resource context. And maybe I move that project out even further, and we'll see that my resource pooling constraints start to change as well. Maybe I move this guy back out again as I had it before, and you'll see the resource pool is starting to improve. So I have this ability to look at it both as money, or in this case as available headcount, and where do we want to slot things to be able to get the work done based on the resource pool we have. So that's the conventional prioritization model. It's very similar to what Project Online would have shown in the past or would have used. Now let's look at it slightly differently. Let's go to a board view. So I'm going to go to my strategic alignment board view, just the first of several that I want to show. Here I'm looking at the columns are my strategy or how I'm aligned to it. My lanes are the different corporate goals I have. You'll see these things called strings, and I'll just quickly show those. In here we have this idea that we can define dependencies. So this project is dependent on PiperNet, okay, and that's a blue dependency, but it also has a related dependency or a related connection to this advanced voice biometric, which is the green line. And the red line denotes a blocker. So very quickly we can show visually what projects are tied to what and what is that relationship. Now, to look at more of an agile or lean prioritization, I'm going to grab goals by program. So this could be by program increment, as Jim mentioned and showed sort of, I think, this screenshot. And you can see here, I have set my different goals as my columns, my customer satisfaction, growing business, run business, and transformation. Each one has a financial constraint, and in some cases, the work we have in that constraint already, or that work in that column rather, exceeds that constraint. In other cases, it does not. Again, you can see the relationships between the different projects within each program. But here's my backlog. And I could start to bring projects into the different programs underneath the different columns and what have you, and start to plan things out. Where do I want to fit things in this particular program increment, or perhaps the next program increment, and so on. So a very visual, tactile way of doing our prioritization, more in line with lean and scaled agile and how more modern agile-based planning and prioritization functions. So we support that here in the analyzer as well. Lastly, I'll just quickly show you the roadmap feature that we include in here. It's another way of visualizing that same work. Here I'm grouped by business unit. It's showing the interrelationship between the different projects within that particular business unit, or perhaps that's a particular project or product line rather, and I want to look at that and see how I am doing. how things are relating, where do I have the color coding where I may have an overall health issue that I should dive into. So it's another way of visualizing that same data. Next thing I want to spend a bit of time on is the resource plan. Now, let's look at that data as a resource manager instead of a PM. So here I'm looking at, let me just pop this out for a second, my entire resource pool that I'm responsible for, perhaps, and where do I have conflicts? You can see the color coding very quickly. And if I look at any one of these resources, I could see what projects they're on and where they are. And remember earlier, we were asking for a PM. So let's go back and look at that same scenario. There's that project we were on. I could perform the same exercise here to say, where are, which project, or who should I put on this project, sorry. So what's my best match? So the same data, same information, same UI really comes down to whether that's a role that the resource manager or resource manager function should fulfill, or can the PM do that themselves. They're all working off the same information depending on how you want to proceed. So very quickly, a resource manager can see what are all of the conflicts in different projects that we have in play? Where do people need resources? Who's the best fit? How do I support the projects in getting their work done by providing them clear line of sight to the people they need when they need them. So that's the advanced resource capabilities that we provide. Now let's look at some of the other capabilities here Jim did mention. My work. So now I can view, as the person I've logged into, all of the tasks that I've been assigned. I could come in and say, well, I've done 100 hours on that task, so now I'm on 100%, so I'm putting the percentage. So I've now completed that task. And I could do those updates on tasks here. I could view that more in a board view. Maybe I want to look at it and say, well, this one here, we're going to defer this particular task and leave it for later. So I have different formats of how I might do that when I start to look at my work. And then the more advanced scenario, and some clients do need this, we run into it quite frequently, is the idea of being able to do timesheeting. So this will provide us the ability to do a timesheet regardless of whether the work was originally on a project for the web project, maybe even a planner project, we didn't talk about that, or in Azure DevOps, or in Project Pro. But I could come in here and complete my timesheet for the tasks that have been assigned to me, and now I can time phase the data, show progress, highlight what's left, work that I need to do, and submit that timesheet and run a full timesheet process from inside this Power App user experience. So that's a quick look at the functionality that we're providing when we add the OnePlan as an extension to Microsoft's Power Platform. I'm going to jump to a third environment just quickly, because what I want to highlight is where you can take this, what opportunities are given to you with this solution. Jim talked about this, the whole vision of the Power App platform and where you can go. And so in this environment, I want to highlight a couple of things. We've added in the concept of portfolios, so a third layer to that model, project, program, now all the way up to portfolios, where again, they can have owners, they can have budgets, they can have status reports, and all kinds of structure and business case data around the portfolio. Or maybe you want to build out your demand management and do things like challenges and other ideation solutions and ideas. Power Apps is a fantastic format for doing that, and you can see we've added some of that capability here. Or you perhaps want to articulate your corporate strategy and start capturing things like objectives and key results. Well, another Power App in this particular demo environment where we've articulated our key objectives that we're trying to accomplish and the key results that relate to them. And then we can relate those to the projects and programs that we're going to do to achieve those results. The Power Platform gives us all kinds of capability here and things that we can go and do and build. Clients I've talked to want to do things like sophisticated benefits realization and tracking. Great, perfect candidate for a Power App inside this platform to then relate it back to the projects that you're managing and the programs and so forth. And there's lots of other ideas. What Microsoft's done with this move towards this platform is unlock a lot of capabilities and ways for us to interact with key things that people are trying to do in a business, both as a PMO trying to execute, but the organization as a whole, and interact, provide data, leverage data, and build graphical user interface capabilities for people to submit information, view, and consume that data. It's a very powerful platform, and we're very excited about where we can take it. So we wanted you to see not just how we've extended it, but some ideas and concepts around how you can take it even further to meet your business needs. And with that, Jim, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Paul. Let me share my screen. So let's go into summary and next steps. So one of the things to factor into this is that the licensing that's required for this new platform, you may already own some components of that. The Project Plan 3 and Plan 5 licenses that you have for Project Professional and or for Project Online is what you need to do some of the things that Paul showed you here today. The Plan 3 license gets you Project for the Web and the Project Professional license. It also gets you access to the core Project Power App, and that can get you, a long ways towards where you want to be. So as you look at this, instead of starting over with some other new solution, you may just be springboarding some things you already own into the mix. Might have to buy some additional components, potentially like maybe just people who have Plan 1 needs. But the idea is with Project for the Web, but the new solution, as you put it together, will end up being priced similarly to what you're paying on an ongoing basis for Project Online. Now, the capabilities can be extended, as Paul was showing you, to provide you a solution that may even go beyond what you're doing with Project Online, say, today. We also have, as OnePlan Solutions, are working to get migration tooling that we're working on. So if people eventually want to go from Project Online to the new platform, we can actually migrate that data over to make it easier for you to make that transition as you go through. So be aware that we're working on that as well. So in summary, Microsoft is in the process of modernizing Project. The new Microsoft solution is built on the Power Platform. And by the way, the Microsoft Project Power App is being built by OnePlan in partnership with Microsoft. And that Project Power App with OnePlan extends and goes even beyond the capabilities of Project Online today. So some of the things that you saw today from Paul are things that even go beyond what you might have with Project Online today. So the combination of the two can really get you a fully robust, state-of-the-art PPM solution if your needs are even very sophisticated or complex. Now, OnePlan is an organization. We provide the solution, services, and support to ensure your customer transition, that you get value, and that you have success in that transition. So just be aware that we're here to help you in any way as a service provider and as a trusted advisor. You can try some of this out today. Microsoft has not yet fully released the Project Power App. That should be coming in the coming weeks. But we do have the ability for you to preview what's been done in AppSource. And you can work with what's called the PPM Accelerator up there, but you can start getting your hands on this now, pre-release, if you'd like to see how it would fit for you and get a feel for what it'd be like to work in it. So as next steps, we suggest that you possibly contact us for a trial and get hands-on with it. If you're really wondering what it might take to get from where you're at today into this Project Power App, we're happy to provide a free Project Power App solution fit assessment to understand where you're at today, where you'd like to get to in here, and kind of give you an idea of what it might take to do that, not only from a process and effort perspective, but what that means from a licensing perspective as well. And also, if you're not quite there yet, Paul gave you a very high-level, generalized demo. We can go do a more personalized one-on-one demo, more tailored to your needs and your requirements as we go through this. So please take us up on that. We really hope to engage with you on this because we're really excited about where Microsoft's going on this, and we'd like to help customers get there successfully. If you'd like to do that, or any of these things, reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai. If you want to look at more about these solutions, you can go to oneplan.ai in your browser or projectpowerapp.com. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today, taking time out of your valuable day, and we really hope to engage with you in the future on this journey. Have a great day.